Tonight, we've got the penultimate episode of Legion, and we're going to take a few minutes, and we're going to bring you up to speed on everything, because tomorrow night, yes, tomorrow night, is the series finale of Legion. Plus, Lord and Miller, they're going to do a lot of Spider-Man for TV. What do we want to see? What do you want to see? Let's talk about it. Marvel TV Weekly starts now.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
It's doing a lot of good over there. Hey, welcome to Marvel TV Weekly. I'm Christian Bladt, joined by the one, and thank God the only, Xia Anderson.
Are you saying that you don't want 10 more Xia Andersons?
Oh my God, just imagine.
What if
we
there
had
was
that
10
many
of me just in the studio hanging out right now, all giving their angry opinions on things?
Why are we listening to Happy Jack? I mean, it was probably featured on an episode once at some point, but it's not like it's the theme song or anything. But
does Legion have a theme song?
I just didn't think we could play any music. No, it just has weird music,
like weird sounds.
Yeah,
weird sounds.
Are you getting this video taken off of YouTube by playing that Ryan in the booth? We'll see. In any case, it's great to have everybody here. We will talk a lot about Legion, but first, the big TV news, and we've got we've got D23 coming up later this month, and that'll probably be the last big TV news we get, maybe for the year, but we'll see about that. But for Lord and Chris Miller, and we talked a little bit about this on Marvel Movie News, the show that Z and I are both on Thursdays over on the Popcorn Talk Network. But there's a little bit more than at least I knew at the time. So Phil Lord Christopher Miller, whom many of you know as, the Lego movie, 21 Jump Street, and, those guys who got fired off the Han Solo movie. So there's that.
As they're so affectionately referred to.
And I guess it stands to reason that maybe they wouldn't want to work for Disney, but they're happy to work with Sony because obviously they did Into the Spider-Verse. And there's two things that they're going to do. One is there will be kind of a whole universe of live action shows, and that comes from the Spider-Man universe, which, as they said, is like 900 characters. So I'm going to take that to mean there's going to be 900 shows.
Great.
Do you think that's right?
Yes.
Or do you think I'm jumping to
No,
conclusions
there's
there?
definitely going to be 900 shows.
And they also say that there will actually be an Into the Spider-Verse animated TV show, which that's a part that I didn't realize. I knew they were doing a sequel.
What?
I knew they were doing a spin-off. But according to, I think this one was from Slash Film, which I do believe, sometimes you get some of these sources where you're like, okay,
I'm not sure.
It's like, it's a website with like a dot and like 3 letters. You're like, those letters don't go together. It's like .gxp. I'm like, wait a minute. Do I trust that website?
It's not even a human writing it. It's just a bot.
Right. Just a bot just making
Computer.
stuff up.
Yeah.
So if there really is an Into the Spider-Verse TV series, I mean, the possibilities for that are limitless. And that's something that I didn't know. Zia, did you know? Did you know this and you were holding out on me?
I mean, yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. I knew the whole time. I knew everything, and I was like, I'm just not telling Christian.
That does sound like you.
It does,
actually.
right?
Well, let us know
Yeah.
in the chat. And if I missed it, I'm just happy to know that it's happening.
Yeah.
Now, what they haven't been specific about is that there will be these live action spin-offs. And we talked a little bit about this also on Marvel Movie News, but we have a little bit more time on this show. I wanted to talk about a few things from not the Spider-Verse movie, but the Spider-Man mythos of characters that we would love to see a regular series for. They could be miniseries, they could be recurring series, and there's a few. Now, Zia, you left your notebook at home.
I left my notebook at home.
So do you remember what yours were?
No. No.
You're like, just Spider-Man and Spider-Man and does whatever Spider-Man can.
Hey,
Spider can.
Look, how about this, though? Well, this isn't a Spider-Man property, but I know... Never mind.
That's all right. Say it anyway.
Daredevil and Spider-Man have worked side by
absolutely.
side before, so like...
I mean, I would love to see that, but you can't do anything with Daredevil for like another year and a half. But one thing that... A character that we got to know really well from the Netflix Daredevil show is Wilson Fisk the Kingpin. And that is someone that I would like to see on television. I'd like to see a whole show about him. I like the idea of having shows for villains.
With Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yes, that's definitely my preference for sure.
Yeah.
But I think that, look, we had The Sopranos. They're not good guys. Okay? In some ways they mean well, but at the end of the day they were all criminals. So I think that sort of world works, you know? Obviously, when you get properties where it deals with like, well, this person's really a villain, sure, Venom, but I think that they kind of softened him a little bit. And, you know, it's usually with like the caveat, like Suicide Squad, it's like, well, these are bad guys, but we're making them do good stuff, you know? But I would totally be open to a series about really just the crime underworld that we see so much in Marvel Comics, yes, but it was always a part of the Spider-Man comics. There's a character from the mid-'80s called the Rose that was sort of a player there in the crime underworld that I've yet to see animated live action. So that's something I'd like to see. And I said this on Marvel Movie News, a character that I'd most like to see get her own movie or show or something is Black Cat, Felicia Hardy. She's a great character, and you don't have to have her interacting with Spider-Man. This could be from before she knew him, or this could be like, oh yeah, I haven't really talked to him in a while. That's fine. That's a character that I would love to see. And one other one that I was thinking was, it's a little bit out there, but I'd like a Daily Bugle show, you know, where it's like the perspective of all this like super stuff happens, but they're actually not involved. You know, this is just like reporting on it. And it's like, I mean, it'd be really hard to do without J. Jonah Jameson. I'm not going to lie about that part. You could do it without him. You could have it where he's on sabbatical. Maybe he's on like the phone, like Charlie from Charlie's Angels or something. But I don't love that idea. I want a Daily Bugle TV show with J. Jonah Jameson. Would you watch that, Zia?
Yeah, absolutely. I would, but it also has to be J.K. Simmons. And
yeah, that's going to be the tough part. But you know, hey, he did that show for Stars, so he's not averse to television.
No, he could totally do it. I would absolutely watch that.
Is what that was called. Yeah.
I want to see some of the more ridiculous villains. I think I also mentioned this on Marvel Movie News, but I want to see
Paste Pot Pete.
Yeah,
he's always my favorite. He should get his own show.
Absolutely, why not? And like Jack-o'-lantern.
Oh, Jack-o'-lantern is interesting. Yeah,
it's fun. This is just like nonsensical fun, and I would like a bit of that because I feel like Spider-Man has a lot of like emotions you can play with, but he also has a lot of just nonsensical fun characters you can mess with also.
Yeah, and I think that the most watchable, sort of from a villain standpoint, would be Kraven the Hunter. I think you'd have to have him not hunting Spider-Man on a TV show. I get that. That just doesn't seem realistic. But I think that character lends itself to a series. And, you know, you want to do a younger Kraven the Hunter when maybe he's not so bad. But honestly, if he's hunting big game, that's pretty bad, you know? I mean, people get very upset when and I'm not saying that it's wrong to be upset when you see people posing with like a lion that they just killed for the reason that they wanted to take a selfie with a dead lion. But I think that's a really interesting character, and I don't know if we're about to get him in a movie.
He could be hunting dinosaurs.
He could be hunting dinosaurs, yeah.
Let's make that TV show.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is from, but...
He probably ended up in the Savage Land where Kazar but I am definitely up for that. And let us know in the chat, and we can move on. But if you're thinking of Spider-Man properties you'd like to see live action on television, Haywood Wong wants to know if you're angry, Zia.
I'm very angry, Haywood Wong. Can you tell? Silhouetted Animator, thank you for the $2. Amazing.
Wait, is there super chat again?
Yes. It's blue.
Silhouetted Animator, you're giving us too much money.
I know. I don't even know what to do with all of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's... And Black Magic 99, who I don't think I've seen for a while. Thanks for being back, Black Magic. Spider-Man 2099 show would be great. I definitely agree with that. And yeah, it's funny because the chat is moving so slow for me here. Like I just now saw the $2.
Oh, you just now saw it. Interesting. Yeah. Well, what about a spectacular Spider-Man revival?
There's the 2009. That was the animated show. Yeah, I mean, I think like some of the animated series it would be great to see again, but for whatever reason, they're interest in animation for Spidey is the current series that's just called Marvel Spider-Man, which had like a cliffhanger more than a year ago, and it's coming back, but they haven't actually announced when it's coming back yet. So one day it's going to be back on TV. And, you know, we need something. We need some kind of Marvel on TV. There's nothing coming up until December 13th when The Runaways is on. Jenna James is suggesting Ben Reilly, Michael O'Hara, and Kane Parker. The Ben Reilly clone is something that I was... Ben Reilly is actually the real Spider-Man at one point. And I look, clone sagas are pretty high up on something that I'm just not interested in. But Spider-Man Unlimited is what Black Magic referenced. That's the show I wanted to think of the name of. Anyway, so look, there's so many options, and I will watch all of them. That's fine. But as I said on Marvel Movie News, I wonder... Do you think Sony might be developing a streaming service, Zia?
Yes, we talked about, I know, you and I, we had the same thought, right?
Yeah.
That they're 100% going to start their own streaming service because everybody has to jump on board with that.
Yeah, everybody's got to do one.
But I'm sorry, Sony, if you make one, I'm probably not going to get it because Disney's going to have, as much as I would love all these Spider-Man shows, I can't afford another streaming service, and Disney already has my money.
I'm about to punt Netflix, you know, because I've gotten through the stuff that I want, and a lot of stuff keeps leaving Netflix. So I'll keep a door open. Depends on what the shows are.
It does depend.
Go ahead, but great comment from Ghost8386 in the chat. After watching The Boys, Carl Urban would have made a great Kraven the Hunter. Oh. And absolutely right. He, by the way, would have? No, still could. I'm perfectly fine with that. Mm-hmm. There's no reason. There's absolutely no problem with that.
Black Magic 99 also says a Venom show in the vein of Punisher I think would work really well too. I agree. That would be cool.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be great. So anyway, let us know everything that everybody wants to watch. That's all we need. What does everybody want to watch? And I'm going to watch anything. I'm going to watch all these Spidey shows if we get them. But it'd be nice to see Spidey once in a while, you know? I mean, if, like, you could get it. Like, look, again, another universe, but in Season 2 of Titans for DC Universe, they've announced that they're going to have Bruce Wayne on it, and I'm like, well, great.
What?
So let's give these shows, like, they can each get Spider-Man for one episode, you know? And that's fine.
Fair.
I'll have no problem with it. I don't know who's going to play him, you know? That's a question for another time. And the Homelander actor, according to Jenna James, would make a great Norman Osborn. Do you mean the guy from Homeland? Do you mean Damian Lewis? Is that who you're talking about? And I'm just wondering.
I believe she's referring to the actor who plays the character Homelander in The Boys.
Oh, okay. See, I don't know The Boys, so I'm glad that Ryan is in the booth and able to tell us everything.
Check out our after show.
I'm about to.
I haven't watched the actual show, so I can't just watch the after show.
I was just telling the fans listening.
Oh, I see.
Interviewed him. Anthony Starr. Yeah.
You're like, I interviewed him.
Yeah.
He was awesome.
He was great. I can see that. I mean, he's like a younger Norman Osborn, but I can see that.
Yeah, well, I think we could go younger and, you know, maybe not kill him for a little while. You know, as great as Willem Dafoe was, they kind of got rid of him really quickly.
Yeah,
you know?
they did.
So, I mean, they only made 3 of those movies, so I guess they knew what they were doing. But I don't think that was really the plan. In any case, here we are now. Tomorrow night, right now, so 24 hours from right now for those that are watching live, I will be in this studio with my cohorts talking about the series finale of Legion, which will be tomorrow night on FX at 10 Eastern and Pacific, 9 Central Mountain Time. You can figure out what time that is. Hawaii, you can figure out what time that is. It's, you know, just 10 o'clock. And we'll be talking about the series finale. And here's the crazy thing about it, Z. I've already looked it up. It's an hour and 9 minutes. And you'd think that this show, if it's a series finale, it'd be like an hour 48 or something. Mm-hmm. Nope, hour 9.
What?
So like, we're done. And that just reinforces my point that they were a little lean on material for this season. They had a couple of...
They had a rap battle?
Which I loved.
It was so good. I still think about it sometimes. I just want to rewatch just that.
Just the rap battle
Yeah,
part.
I'm actually probably going to.
I mean, I think that's a great way to do it. So I wanted to take a few minutes, though, and kind of look back on Legion as a whole, which, as some of you know, that's how Z and I first met, was on the Legion after show.
Yeah, it was.
Well over a year ago, here at AfterBuzz TV. You were actually on the panel.
I was.
I wasn't, but I filled in for like 4 different people on different occasions.
You were there for like half the season for someone that wasn't on the panel originally.
And then I ended up, kind of sitting in for the whole season this year. So that's how it works. But anyway, for me personally, I have always enjoyed the show, despite the fact that it is just so weird. And it's, I know.
Love the weird.
The weird is great. And I really enjoy that they've embraced it more and more as the last couple seasons have gone along. And as I will often talk about, my wife could just not take it anymore and stopped watching it during season 2. But that just frees me up, because when I have to watch a show with her, I have to wait forever to, catch up and, we actually have the time to watch it. So I'm enjoying where this has gone in season 3. And then when you kind of think back from the way that it started, is, we meet David, he's in the mental hospital, and then Sid is there. And, they start their relationship and all that. But then that's when we start to really learn a lot more. And we have the Shadow King, and we have Lenny, and they bust out of there, and then they end up with Melanie, and we start to put the team together early on in season 1. And it's funny to think back of, because this whole season everybody's really been focused on destroying David, basically.
Yeah.
And it's nice to think back when Division 3 were his friends and they were working together, and I don't know. I think that I personally think that everybody's turned against him, not because of anything. Well, no, it's a little bit of what David did, let's be honest. But I think that this Shadow King, everybody was so quick to embrace him. And I think that we're really going to see that come to a head in tomorrow night's finale. What are your thoughts sort of on the rest of the cast? We'll talk about David in a little bit. But we're just sort of where everybody else is. We've got the 2 Carries. We've got Sid with her awesome new tattoos, Me First, and we have so many other things that are going on this season. What are your thoughts of where we see our characters at this point in season 3?
It is definitely very interesting, the turn that you go from them all being a team to suddenly Farouk planting those little earworms in them, and now they're Team Farouk somehow. I still don't understand how they don't see that that's weird, that they're just working with Farouk like no big deal.
Well, I guess if you have the little earworm in there, you have no reason to think it's weird. It just seems to be a natural progression,
Yeah.
That it's just like, this makes perfect sense. And we were introduced this season to Switch, who, as the season has gone along, I feel worse and worse for.
Oh, poor Switch.
Yeah.
And honestly, this is where David is like, he's in his mindset of like, nothing matters now because I'm going to change it, so none of this is going to happen. But it's pretty awful the way he's treating Switch. It's pretty bad. He does not care about her at all. She's a means to an end for him.
And he's even admonished by his father, who, because he said like, it doesn't matter, it's time travel. He's like, David, everybody matters.
Everybody.
And this is like, he doesn't even realize he's his dad yet, and he's still like dadding him around,
Right.
And I think that Noah Hawley said that he couldn't do this season without Charles Xavier and back when Fox was its own studio, they allowed him to do it. And I honestly think that it would be really hard to tell a story with any kind of finality for the character of Legion if Professor Xavier wasn't there.
No, I agree. I mean, a huge part of the story is the fact that his father gave him up. And how would you... And the fact that he drove the Shadow King to David as a baby
Yeah.
because he defeated him, and instead of defeating him, he just drove him out of his body.
Right.
So I feel like it has to kind of come full circle, otherwise it's not a complete story, which I'm really glad we finally got to that point. I love that we're in the past. I actually really love that Sid is there talking to David's mom also.
Yeah.
And did you see, I thought she realized that the baby was David, but did you see her face when she found out that was David? She was like, oh my God.
We talked about that on the Legion After Show. There's sort of this idea of like, I understood that she didn't know where they had followed David and Switch to, so she wasn't really sure who the baby was. But she did seem a little dense for like, oh, wait a minute, that's who the baby is?
Why am I here?
She would have had no reason to know who David's birth mother was and all that. But I know, I agree with you, though. That was definitely the reaction where you're just like, yeah, who'd you think it was?
It's like, where did you think you were?
Yeah.
You followed David back to what? He's trying to redo everything. You know that.
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever.
So season 2, and this was something that Zia and I talked a lot about on the season 2 Legion After Show last year, which season 2 sort of ends in a big way with everybody turned against David, but so subtle, that was so smooth. Why didn't you just open one of those cans that has snakes pop out of it? She's trying to be so slick. She's like, I'm like, oh, I've got my fizzy water under the desk. While he's talking, I'm going to open it and drink it.
You're not supposed to look. There weren't any cups.
There's nothing to see here. There's nothing to see here.
It's also completely in the frame in the wide.
That's good. That's good.
So
Killing it.
There's the very divisive, controversial interpretation of the way season 2 ended, which is fundamentally what this season has been about, which is David and Sid are together. Sid gets tired of David, wants to kind of go off on her own. David does some mind control-y stuff, then she's back on board. They sleep together. And then her interpretation, and look, the interpretation of many people who have watched it, including Elena, who's on the panel with me for the Legion After Show, is that it was at best a little date rapey, you know, because it's like, sure, she was your girlfriend, but she wasn't into you anymore. And then you convinced her that everything was okay, but in so doing, she just thought it was okay to sleep with you, and then she realizes after the fact. So, as the woman on this panel, I'm going to let Zia explain what she thinks about it, and as I've been saying for more than a year, I don't know if I even have an opinion on it.
Trust me, you don't. Just save yourself. I think that it didn't come down to what she wasn't into him anymore. I think Farouk did that. And
right.
David was like, wait, what's happening? And changed it back. I'm not saying what he did was right. I think that it's an over-exaggeration, the way she's looking at it. Just for me personally, I'm like, it's not rape to me. I'm sorry. Like, he didn't force you. I guess by changing your mind. But to me, it's more like he just was trying to undo what Farouk did in the first place. So it's just like a weird battle of like, wait, but I'm not this bad guy that this guy's making you think I am.
Right.
And he didn't force her to sleep with him. And I'm sorry, they actually didn't even have sex for real because they can't fucking touch each other. Damn it. Sorry.
Well, yeah, but I mean, they figured out
sex.
A way that they have sex on the astral plane.
She's having sex with no one. If you shows in the video, she's just like, and there's nobody there.
I'm sorry.
Having sex in her brain.
What's it like in the videos here? What was that you just did?
She was just lying there going, because there's nothing actually. It's not even as good.
But emotionally,
as Scary Movie. Yeah, emotionally they did it. Emotional sex isn't a real thing. Whatever.
Imagine if I said that. I would never. And by the way, I'm not even saying I think that. I'm just saying that if I said that, I'd be run out of town. And here's the thing. It is definitely an opinion that what he did it's all wrapped up in what Farouk was up to. And yeah, so the idea that the seed of, discontent at all being planted in Sid's brain comes from the Shadow King just basically poisoning the minds of everybody. So I'll be interested to see if they can tidy that up in a satisfying way to either side of that argument, much less both. Like, what do you think the odds are that you personally will be satisfied by the way that they resolve that storyline, but also the show in general?
I think that the only way that they can resolve that storyline is if Sid is suddenly set free from Farouk's sort of, I guess, influence.
Right.
And she realizes, oh, crap, this entire time I've been trying to kill someone that I actually loved. I don't know how she's going to feel about that afterwards. And be like, wow, I'm sorry. And then David be like, I'm sorry too. I was just trying to make everything okay.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's kind of the only way that you can do that. And Jack Dennis in the chat, Sid raped her mother and her mother's boyfriend. Just saying, am I wrong? Again, yeah, absolutely. But she was just doing it in her mind. It's okay because she was doing it just to see. But the fact of the matter is, she got a man arrested for sleeping with an underage girl when he thought it was like she raped him too. So like if you want to go by those rules,
sure. What she did accidentally, but the guy going to jail and look, what he did is still wrong, even though in his mind it was his. It wasn't her. It was. I always forget if it was her stepfather.
Bodies.
No, was it her stepfather or just her mom's boyfriend?
I think it's
her mom's boyfriend.
So he thought he was having sex with his girlfriend at the time, and then
all of a
it's
sudden,
her daughter,
it's
it's like, whoa, dude, what?
Yeah. So again, there's the physical act of what he's doing that's wrong, but
he
it's
didn't
also
know that.
Yeah.
So
what he starts
didn't do
doing
anything wrong.
is right. So look, I understand it's all very confusing, but at
she
some
doesn't get to
point,
say
Sid could have
anything.
tried to explain to somebody like, okay, so this is what really happened. I can do this thing. But anyway.
Yeah.
So
anyway.
I'll be interested in seeing how they wrap that up. But I don't know. I don't know how satisfying it's possible for it to be.
It has to be where they or rather, I guess, David and the way they ended this last episode, David and his father fight Farouk. Except now there's going to be two Farouks.
Yes, which I wanted to use some imagery that I have here. I wanted to talk about some of the visuals on this episode of Legion that aired last Monday and how they are right out of a story that I often reference on this show from Uncanny X-Men number 117, which is Professor Xavier meets Farouk. It's a flashback story. And the colors weren't exactly the same, but just the way that he was dressed in this hat when he walked in to meet Farouk, he looks very much like Charles Xavier in Uncanny X-Men 117. So for those watching on YouTube, as I was watching it, I kept trying to find this still, because in my mind I remembered, I'm like, that's what he looks like. So I thought that was very cool. And then there's a cover of a issue of Classic X-Men is the other thing. Yeah. And then when they're watching the little play that's happening, the sort of the fight, and this is imagery from the same issue. So this issue of Classic X-Men actually reprints Uncanny X-Men 117, but this is a new piece of artwork on the cover. So you see the way Professor Xavier is dressed. It's sort of that Spanish conquistador armor, but that was the silhouette of one of the two people fighting in the play. So that was another thing that I saw. And these little nods, but I really liked the fact that they were cognizant of what had come before. Because look, I think that up until this season, sometimes you wonder, I'm like, has Noah Hawley actually read any of these comics? Or did he just read like some summaries? So somebody somewhere was paying enough attention.
Well, I would hope that they would get, with all of these shows, I would really hope that they would get at least at the very least, a consultant on board that has read them to be like, hey, look, this is how I think we should do this. I think you should work some of these things in there. I think if you're going to be doing shows like that, you probably should have that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like this, rather. So I thought that it was really cool to kind of have these nods, but I also like how David finally does catch up with Professor Xavier, and they're talking, and just the sequence when he introduces David as like his old army buddy, and young Farouk is super freaked out by him.
Yes.
Because he tries to read his mind, and all he hears is that rap song. And he's just like, this isn't supposed to happen, So that implies that he can actually read even Charles Xavier's mind to some extent. But David, it was just a clean slate. And at that point in his life, he hadn't run into anybody like that. And at that point, he's what, like 3,000 years old, and now he's like 3,050 years old. So he's not that much older now. I did think they did a great job of having younger Farouk and older Farouk.
Yeah, they did. With the darker, the mustache, the darker eyebrows. Yeah, it's fine.
I thought, you know, and it's just like, well, Getty's like 3,000 years old, but whatever. You know, they want him to look younger. But, you know, that's the physical body, I guess, that he still had at that point, and that's probably whomever's body that was. He did indeed look younger. So I want to know, though, Xia, when you were watching it, were you surprised that basically as the episode ends, that old Farouk, present day Farouk, walks through the picture, and then it's like, oh, that, you know, and just his reaction, younger Farouk's reaction is interesting. He's just like, interesting. So we have Charles Xavier, we have David, aka Legion, and then we have two Farouks. Did you see that coming? That there was going that? Yeah, I thought that old Farouk. Well, you shook your head, and I just realized that there.
Yeah. No, sorry, I did not see that coming, which is actually interesting because I watched it with my husband, and he was being like, "Why are they waiting to attack Farouk? Like, what's this is a terrible idea." And then that happens, and he's like, "See, they shouldn't have waited."
It's true.
Which, I mean, yeah, he's right. But I feel like that's kind of a crazy thing to just jump into, fighting Farouk like that. But now it's not 2-on-1 anymore. Now it's 2-on-2, and you have a slightly older, more powerful Farouk who knows himself, working with himself. So that'll be...
Honestly, out of the four of them, old Farouk, as in present-day Farouk, is the only one who knows how this happened the first time. David has heard about it, has kind of seen it, but this Charles Xavier is not the one who's lived through it. Obviously, young Farouk, it hasn't happened to him yet.
Yep.
David, it's secondhand. But so old Farouk's going to know what happened and be prepared for it and possibly able to stop it. I don't quite know how they're going to fit it into an hour and 9 minutes. But, you know,
it's a lot of ends to tie up.
Yeah, because it's like
the Carries.
We've got the Carries.
Poor boy Carrie.
Poor old Carrie. Just taking on that beating.
So brutal.
Yeah.
So brutal and so sad.
Yeah, we were a little wrong 2 weeks ago on the Legion After Show. We thought that old Carrie was going to be doing a little bit better. He's like, oh yeah, he just said I can still do my job from a wheelchair. And we didn't realize how savage the beating was going to be, you know? So I hope he pulls through.
Yeah, me too.
I've always liked those characters, and I'm not going to hold it against them that they have been mind controlled by the Shadow King. There's some people I'm not going to miss. But what do you think is going to happen with David and Sid? I mean, here's the specific question, because we still haven't met Future Sid. Future Sid is who we saw in season 2. And we're to the point where, is she like right now Sid, or is this going to be a future beyond the way the episode ends?
That's a good question. I mean, is she going to end up losing her arm, or are they legitimately going to change anything? Or by trying to change things, are they going to bring about what they thought, like what they feared? I think that by them confronting David back in season 2, that's what's going to lead to David ending the world, because I don't think he would have otherwise, to be honest. It could be this fight. It could be them doing something that makes him lose it. It could be something along those lines. I don't know that we're going to get Future Sid in this.
Interesting, because yes, he's messed with the timeline enough that perhaps we will not get Future Sid. I think that I'm a little disappointed now, because I think you're right. But I wanted to see her turn into Future Sid and just sort of what brings that about, you know?
We still might get it. Who knows? I mean, geez. I wonder if we're going to see Lenny come back at all. I feel like
I expected to see her again up until this point, but I think that I'd be shocked if we don't see her in the series finale. And it might only be brief, but, you know, I think that it'll be interesting to see whether or not we have her, you know. But I don't know. What if we don't see her? I'll miss her.
Me too. I feel like that's not a very fitting end for her. Yeah,
and also, I mean, she's a series regular. They've been paying her all these weeks. Like, you get your money's worth.
Yeah.
Put her on there.
Bring her back.
Jack Dennis in the chat with a good question. Aren't the other David personalities confirmation that he is mentally ill on top of being an Omega mutant? Now, there's never been any doubt that David is mentally ill.
Oh, yeah.
There is the confirmation that his mother was mentally ill, although...
His grandmother.
Oh, yeah, it's great. Yeah, because she tells the story, too. But his mother may have been driven mentally ill by David trying to talk to her in the past, but then also by the Shadow King.
Well, yeah, that made it worse, but she was before that anyway. I mean, granted, she had been through a lot, but, but it still sounds like it runs in the family. It's, there's not much that she can do about that, I don't think.
Yeah. So I think... What's that? You saw something good in the chat?
Jenna James, Zia and Christian, if Feige casts Dan Stevens in the MCU, who would y'all want him to play? I can see him as Moon Knight or Charles Xavier.
I think that would be fun if he was Charles Xavier, because it's like, oh, now he gets to play his dad.
Or how about we bring Legion into the MCU and make it just keep Dan Stevens? Just have him be Legion.
I think that's my number one. I like that idea a lot. I think he would be a good Moon Knight, and I definitely want to see Moon Knight. But I think that, Charles Xavier's fun, but here's my thinking for him. And there's a lot of thoughts on somebody to play this character, but Reed Richards. I just want to, I think he would be a really good Reed Richards.
Oh, I can completely see that. I would like that. Okay, very nice.
So there we go. So, and then a little bit further back in the chat, Jenna James said that she was so disappointed when Sid said it's about change and all the terrible things he did to me.
He did one thing to you.
And then Jenna says, seriously? Meh. Maybe she's changed, but not so much. So yeah, she lived her life twice, but she still kind of comes out
still largely
the same. Yeah.
It drives me crazy.
And another comment from Jenna, that's two for here, is someone who didn't read the comics till recently about David Haller. This show is doing a remarkable job keeping her guessing as to where it's heading. And yeah, I think that there have been so many things along the way that I just didn't foresee. There's things that I thought we would have gotten on the show that we haven't seen, and it's not even in a negative way of like, oh, I can't believe we haven't gotten this. We haven't seen the other powers that David has in the comic books, but maybe we'll see them tomorrow night.
Yeah.
But in any case, I'm very excited about it, but I want Black Magic. I want John Krasinski and Emily Blunt as Reed and Sue Richards. So you want to take, yeah.
I don't hate that.
I don't hate that.
I don't hate that.
I think I know that John Krasinski is Jack Ryan on that Amazon series.
Yeah.
But you do want to. I always think of him as Jim from The Office. I always think of him as a little goofy. Reed Richards should always be a little bit goofy, and that's not a bad call. I'm going to stand by my Dan Stevens, but if I'm wrong, Black Magic, I think that that is an excellent choice.
I like that.
Well, we're almost out of time. Can you believe it, Zia? We're almost out of time.
No, that was fast.
I know. I realized it was like,
there's Legion to talk about.
There's Legion to talk about. And we'll have a whole legion of topics to talk about next week. And I will have my friend from the Legion After Show, Alexa Capiello, will be here again next week. And the last time she was on, people were just couldn't believe that she didn't like some of the MCU movies. But you know what she does like is Legion. So it'll be a good
fitting
conversation. Jack Dennis, Dan Stevens is Archangel.
I like that.
I like that idea a lot. By the way, I would like to just get a good interpretation of Angel.
Please.
And we haven't gotten it yet. They skipped Angel and went right to Archangel in Age of Apocalypse. So yeah, these are all great ideas. Keep them coming if you're watching or listening to the archive version. Please tell us what you think about any of this. Haywood Wong, Zia cursing sped up the time. That's true. that is really what happened.
That's what I do.
We lost 3 minutes because you did that.
Whoops.
And anyway, so we are out of time for this week, but until next week, Sunday at 9, Zia, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Zia_land. That's spelled XIA_land. And you can also find Christian and I on our sister network, The Popcorn Talk, Thursdays at 1 p.m. Marvel Movie News, where we talk about Marvel movie things.
We talk about Marvel movie news.
Yes, we do.
On Marvel Movie News.
Yeah.
And we talk about Marvel TV weekly right here on AfterBuzz TV. So you can find us next Sunday. And until then, you can keep in touch with me on Twitter and Instagram at ChristianDMZ. But Until next week, until Thursday when we're on Marvel Movie News, as the great Stan Lee would say, Excelsior.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.